The race for town supervisor in Wawarsing is shaping up to be one to watch this year. Incumbent Republican conservative Terry Houck is seeking a third term, and he's being challenged by the Democratic Town Councilman Joseph Stoeckeler, who says it's time for new energy and creative solutions to tackle housing, economic challenges in the towns. Welcome to the studio, Joseph.
Thank you for having me, Patricia. I appreciate you.
So, you served on the town board since 2023, right? And what made you decide to take the next step and run for town supervisor this year?
I'm involved in a couple of different committees and organizations, as well as in real estate and on the village planning board. And when I was elected into office for the town board, I realized over the past 2 years that my reach could only go so far given the different hats I wear. And obviously, not having the full resources of the supervisor's office limited my um, ability to expand my reach for a broader impact in our area. Um, and spending the past 2 years, I realized that there's various departments that obviously need oversight and day-to-day management, as well as being a voting board member, where I can have the conversations with our county officials, with our local residents, with the village, with neighboring towns of what's working, what's not, and why, so we can put our best foot forward and make town of Warsing a better version than it is right now.
You grew up in Wawarsing. You moved out to the west for a little bit, but you came back. What have you seen has changed most in the community, and what hasn't changed enough?
Yeah, so I graduated Ellenville, lived there, moved away, basically right at a couple years after high school because I just didn't see an opportunity for me to sustain um, a life with a good income, good paying job, and retirement one day. And this was in 2008 when, unfortunately, a combination of Channel Master Charade closed in Ellenville, the Neville Hotel, that they were all but out of business, and we essentially lost over 2,000 jobs in about 7 or 8 years. And I decided to move elsewhere and where opportunity was. So fast forward, 2019, I moved back, and during the time away, I was able to see different cultures, different lifestyles, different ways of life, meet people who were from around the world, and it definitely eye opening to experience that, to see other people with again what's working, what's not, and why. And that statement really has an impact on me, and I carry on to today. So when I moved back home, it was a lot of the same of the old where, a lot of my friends moved away, and rightfully so. They were not able to sustain a successful lifestyle for them or raise a family without two or three jobs, and without, sharing a house, sharing space with people to pay for the bills. Um, so, the biggest change I have seen really is when the pandemic hit. Being about an hour and a half north of the city, we were very attractive for people, remote workers, who were able to still get in the city when they needed to for meetings. Trains about a half hour away in Middletown, um, and take advantage of our beautiful area, our amenities from the mountains to the hiking trails, reservoirs. We definitely have a lot to offer people who seek that lifestyle, but are still accessible to the city if needed.
The landscape of the Catskills has changed since the pandemic. We knew a lot of folks coming up here and finding home in the beauty that
Mhm.
we have here. You mentioned working with the county and state partners to bring in grants and funding into Warsing. What kinds of programs or partnerships do you envision pursuing first?
There's one specifically that I'm a big fan of, and it's the Ulster County's Housing Smart Initiatives. And what that is a series of initiatives that offer different attractive features to developers, current owners, to either invest in their property, to sell their property, or help the people who are currently living there. And a couple of which I'll go over quickly and then dive into my favorite. One of which is short term rental law we have in place, um, ADUs, accessory dwelling units, we already have in place. I'm a big fan of them because really three reasons. One, it gives the homeowner who might be struggling, whether they're on fixed income or life, the cost of living has
Yeah.
surpassed their income. They give them a chance to offset that income with the accessory dwelling unit. And for the renter who are struggling for a place to live, maybe keep a roof over their children's heads or their spouse heads or their heads, they can find a place that they can afford. And also with the improvements and building permits, that's the proper way to raise taxes and assess. So that's one thing I'm very sensitive of, is finding out ways to properly give people value in their homes, and to to expand our tax base. The last one, there is a series of, it's the rehab initiative, and it's a series of um, improvements that the homeowner can apply for and be eligible for, whether that's winterization, new windows, roof. You can get your mechanicals upgraded, or at least money to offset. So again, I instantly think about our seniors out there, or people on fixed incomes who want that, that those new windows, so it's not as draft, and they don't go through as much oil, or updated modernization, but can't afford it. This will give them a fighting chance.
Yeah. Now you have a background, like you mentioned, in real estate currently. How do you balance development and growth in a town like Wawarsing? Or because there's a boom going in housing in some parts of Ulster County. How can balance that development and growth and still protect the character of the town and affordability of housing?
I think the so what limited municipality experience they might have, I make up for with a combination of real estate and planning. And in my opinion, understanding how business works, understanding planning and zoning are critical pieces to elected officials and decision makers. Um, you need to have an idea of what your plan looks like, what your area has looked like, what you want it to look like, and what you don't want it to look like. There's a saying I like to tell people, who don't quite embrace planning as much as I hope they would, is you need to plan your area before it's planned for you. And with the town of Warsing, we have numerous hamlets with different layouts, whether that's proximity to a highway or proximity to a trail. I don't know if there isn't a one size shoe fits all plan when it comes to housing in different areas. I do believe there are opportunities, and also, working with the village of Ellenville on what makes sense, because the Ellenville is the central location, the hub for the town of Warsing. So it's a fine line with people who seek the town of Warsing to call home because they enjoy that rural lifestyle, while also giving people an opportunity to. It's no doubt a tough one to manage, and there is no silver bullet for that.
Yeah. Now, many small towns struggle, like we hear in the Catskill, struggle with a lot is youth engagement and keeping younger residents from moving away. What is your plan for Warsing to make Warsing a place where young people can build their future?
Um, you know, Youth, I'm going to start even a step below before a family or looking for a job with our middle and high schoolers. I'm very excited that the town partnered with local organizations, and we have a very strong application in right now with New York for I'm sorry, with the Bricks grant for a youth center, which is when I grew up, I had three different youth centers to go to, which gave me outs that weren't the school but weren't home either. So I'm very excited. We'll know more about that next month, but we probably our best shot in quite some time to give our youth something to do. Which obviously take that a step further now into younger people looking our way. We do a great job with the village of Ellenville with a restaurant row with our Shadowland. The town has their trails, their hiking, their amenities, healthier lifestyle and alternatives. Um, you know, I'm not quite sure yet as far as what that looks like for the town to attract young people and younger families to call home, but giving opportunity to everyone equitably, and see how that falls when the kind of the dust settles, is better than what we're doing now.
Now, you said like we said earlier, you are on the town board currently right now. What have you learned from your time on the town board that you like to carry over into this leadership role?
I'm very fortunate to I'm the direct liaison with the water and wastewater departments, and there's five in total: three water districts and two wastewater districts that service the hamlets in the town of Warsing. And what I've really grown to embrace and enjoy is there are many snippets of a municipality in some ways where they each have a budget. There's unions involved. I have to talk to constituents, good, bad, or ugly. I have to report to the board, report to the supervisor. So it really has given me an advantage, whereas other departments don't have that type of exposure. Given the departments just have a different type of demand. And also in my prior career, I have about a decade of hospitality management where basically every dollar that came in, I was responsible for to the bottom line. So, you control your controllables, you're accountable, someone calls you, answer. And I think that formula can translate into any entity and municipalities.
Now, since obviously you're on the town board, like we just said, and you explained, how do you plan to further foster collaboration with board members, especially when like political lines can sometimes cause divide in local government?
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously, a couple board members could change. This after this election season. I'm fortunate with the current board. We are rather bipartisan as a whole. We don't look for what's in the best interests of certain groups or not in certain groups of people or their best interests or something they might not be against. We're very open minded, and we do what's in the best interests of the town for the future. If in the event I get elected, in that leadership role, how I envision is, first and foremost, engagement with the community, getting their input, having the roundtable discussions on, again, what's working, what's not, and why. Local businessmen and businesswomen, why do you invest here or why aren't you investing here? And I want the town board to be present for these because there's a lot that we don't know what we don't know. And a critical piece to our success is using the endless resource of knowledge that our town possesses because our residents are our number one resource and our most important.
Right. No. And what we're seeing, like much of the Hudson Valley faces challenges like housing and mental health services. How do you see those issues connecting, and how would you approach them holistically?
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Trudy Farber Resnick
Yes.
building, which is next to the library. About this time last year, we found out that they were going to not only open doors, but really make an investment into each and every room just about 7 days a week. And so far, it's working out that way where whether it's, people who need certain avenues of coping mechanisms. Um, I don't believe the mental health resources there quite yet. We're flirting with the idea of having possibly a DMV there, which would be amazing, because one of the already challenges we see with people fully embracing the Trudy Farber Resnick building, is there is no one draw where Kingston, they have a draw to that building, and it is the DMV. So I think if we can get a DMV in there full time, the building would be taken much more seriously by our locals, and I think that would open doors for other services to be able to be there because they would have the business to suffice.
Yeah.
So, working with that, working with our county officials, whether that's our county executive, the director of operations for the Trudy Farber Resnick building, Janet Nunez, sat in on a couple different meetings with her. She's doing a phenomenal job. If elected, one of my first calls would be to her and our county executive. What can I do? What do you need from us? How can we help strengthen this and give our locals the resources they need? As great as much as I love our location, we're very isolated in some ways because it does take upwards of a half hour to get to certain services needed. And I think we can do better.
Yeah. Now, what are some of the challenges facing what we're seeing now? What are some, like, say, the top three things that you're sort of working on now as currently as a town councilman?
Well, with any type of growth, you need to think about, you know, um, capacities in particular with with water and what you can and can't do. And there are some neighboring areas where water isn't as common as it should be. And so I think as much as I might support growth, I have to be mindful of the impact it has on our most important resource. So that's a challenge, but I look at it as anything else. It's something that we'd be mindful of. We have professionals we can deploy to do studies. We do have a couple of districts, like I said. What are the capacities? What can or can't we do? If there is a developer interested, great. What is their demand versus what we can do? And that gives us I think, a very realistic way of inviting and being inviting to growth while being mindful of our amenities, our resources, and again, also the rural lifestyle that the town of Wawarsing residents call home.
Right. And finally, Joseph, for voters listening, why should they choose you over your incumbent? You mentioned a lot of things already, but why should you choose you when it comes on November 4th?
I think that my time spent away from the town of Warsing, seeing different landscapes down south and out west, coming back home with kind of a fresh set of eyes, right around when the pandemic hit, I have a very um, respectful and deep connection with the older residents, as well as coming back with that new set of eyes. I can relate to the newer residents, to bounce ideas off of, which I have done and continue to do to this day. I enjoy talking to people who aren't from the town just as much as the people who are from the town of Warsing. To again, what's working, what's not, and why. What attracted you to us? What didn't attract other people to us? So I think that's a critical piece to it. And also my knowledge and understanding of planning and zoning, where I embrace them and I understand that they protect us, but also, we have to move from some of the archaic-ish, planning and old ways where technology's changed a lot, and you have to update your codes every 7 to 10 years, I believe, is the rule of thumb. So and not that anything has to change necessarily, but it should be looked at, because opportunity is going to keep passing us by.
We're talking to Joseph Stoeckeler, who's running against Terry Houck, a incumbent and Republican and conservative. He's running for town supervisor for the town of Wawarsing. Thank you so much for joining me on the program.
Appreciate it, Teresa. Thank you.